I think men should be the leader in romantic relationships.
Every man in this room wants to lead. Sorry, wrong room. Every man in this room wants to lead. Not one can explain what that actually costs. This is part 2 of my breakdown of Jubilee's Middle Ground episode, 25 traditional men versus 25 progressive men. Last time we talked about why these traditional men treat femininity and girly things like a biological hazard. This time we're zooming in on the leadership question. Because when men say they want to lead, well, what are they actually asking for? As we watch, I want you to pay attention to something. When these men talk about leadership, listen for who does the actual work. And when they talk about submission, make sure you pay attention to what gets asked and what gets avoided.
Women are just happier in male dominated relationships.
I don't care if she's traditional or trad. She's got to follow my program and my rule as a man.
A lot of the things that men are biologically, psychologically, and societally wired to do are things that are more like leadership oriented.
If men are natural leaders, then why do women already run the entire invisible infrastructure of most households? Stay with me because this isn't about skirts or feelings anymore. This is about power, leadership, and who pays when leadership becomes inconvenient. A little quick context. I have about 3 decades of experience in Christianity before I walked away from it. And I also have about a decade's worth of leadership experience, like Christian-based leadership experience. I taught leadership workshops to women in churches. And then I watched those same churches tell us that leadership wasn't actually for women unless we were singing in skirts or only leading other women. So when I hear this men should lead, I don't just hear preference. I hear a destructive theology that I actually had to deconstruct just to be able to breathe. I hear power dressed up as service, and I hear men asking for authority without promising any accountability. So let's talk about it.
I think men should be the leader in romantic relationships. Things that men are biologically, psychologically, and societally wired to do are things that are more like leadership oriented.
I think it's important that we state that the order of God in Christianity is God over Christ, Christ and man, man over woman.
I understand that, but you're not going, and this is the reason why. That's leadership.
Okay, so men should lead because biology, and also because God, and also because vibes, and also because they said so. As someone who has spent years teaching it, leadership is not a vibe or a gender. It's a skill set. Like a set of skills that must be cultivated, strengthened, tended to. It's a skill set that comes with a cost that most of these men don't seem interested in paying. Real leadership requires responsibility when things go wrong, emotional regulation even under pressure, accountability to the people that are affected by your decisions. Do you ever remember your dad saying sorry? Leadership requires consistency, not mood-based engagement, and it requires a willingness to absorb inconvenience. So when these men say men should lead, I want to know lead what? Lead how? Lead who? And who is going to clean up when leadership gets messy? From where I'm sitting, what's being requested isn't actually leadership. It's the final say without the follow through. It's authority without obligation and being in charge. until emotional labor shows up, and then suddenly women are expected to step in and manage the system.
The fact of the matter is, in romantic connections with women, there's going to be times that I'm going to need to tell you no, and I'm going to need to control situations that you feel otherwise about.
Situation that's not her.
Yeah, if you want to go to Walmart at 2 a.m. in the morning because it's 24 hours and you think you're going to be safe, you're not going. So at the end of the day, we as men have to say, oh, you know what? I understand that, but you're not going, and this is the reason why. And guess what? I'll go because I'm your protector. That's leadership.
She wanted tampons and a chocolate bar, not a permission slip. So what? I have a curfew now? See, this is where the rhetoric gets dangerous because submission isn't being framed as a spiritual practice between equals. It's being framed as a power structure where one person decides and the other obeys.
I don't care if she's traditional or trad. She's got to follow my program and my rule as a man. And what I'm saying is she can go and be a boss at the job, but when she comes home, she's going to take that shirt or hat off and she's going to follow my lead and follow what I have to say because I'm the man. She's got my name. She's got my ring. She's under my roof.
Allow me to say something plainly. Submission language in these contexts isn't about mutual respect and partnership. It's about creating a hierarchy where men retain authority and women absorb consequence. Notice the framing. They're not even being quiet about it. She's under my roof, not our home, not the space we're building together. My roof, my ring, my name, my rules. That's not leadership, that's ownership. And here's the theological sleight of hand that I grew up with. Men's desires were framed as callings, while women's desires, if they were anything but domestic, were framed as temptation, rebellion, disorder. So when a man says, I want to lead, that's treated as like a God-given, natural, innate, of course you do, sweetheart. Of course you do. But when a woman says, hey, I want to lead, then suddenly we're disrupting all defined order. We're threatening masculinity itself, and we are rejecting our design. We are basically disgraces to our very vaginas. Either desire itself is morally neutral, or we're selectively sanctifying males' ambition while disciplining female ambition. You can't have it both ways, but I guess they can, right? So
We are rooted in some kind of greater faith that defines masculinity, the man as a role.
In the same vein, they would say it doesn't matter what language you speak, it doesn't matter what religion you speak. And as traditional men, we disagree with that. We want to have a cohesive society that we speak similar things, we believe similar things, we have a sense of community in all of the things that we wear.
When it comes to just masculinity in general, like I'm in the camp of you provide for your wife, you protect her, you should be a pillar.
Here's the thing, man, like I have had to go to therapy because I am just a very unsympathetic person.
these men want to talk about leadership, hierarchy, and natural roles, but the conversation never lands on the actual labor that makes a household function. Let me tell you what leadership actually looks like in most homes, especially if you have kids in that home. It looks like remembering doctor's appointments, like all of the doctor's appointments, managing the mental load of what needs to happen when, also coordinating everybody's schedule at all times, tracking the emotional states and developmental milestones of everyone in the house, planning meals and restocking the home to make sure that those meals can even be made, anticipating the needs of everyone before they become emergencies, de-escalating conflicts that are happening in the home, absorbing everybody else's emotional dysregulation just so that the household itself stays stable. That's leadership. That's the invisible infrastructure that keeps life running. And in most households, women are already doing it, whether or not men actually call it leadership. So when men say, I want to lead, I want to know, are you asking to make decisions? Or are you asking to actually manage the system that makes those decisions possible? Let me know. Because if you want authority over the household, but you're not tracking the logistics, the emotional labor, the relational maintenance, the calendar, the needs, the friction points in the home, then what you're asking for isn't leadership. It's just the final say without any overhead. And that's not leadership, my friend. That's outsourcing all of the hard parts, but keeping the credit. No, thank you. No, thank you.
And psychologically, where we are just more wired to be in a hierarchical situations, and that requires leadership, and the wife submits to the man's leadership. I think at the end of the day, like, there are going to be certain decisions that need to be made, and I think the men have the most capable instinct in knowing that. And granted, they very well could be wrong.
So men should lead, men are wired for it, men make better choices. Cool. So when leadership becomes emotionally demanding, unglamorous, or when it just is destabilizing, who's going to step in then? The moment that leadership requires emotional regulation or like conflict navigation, well, then suddenly women are expected to step in and stabilize the system. And I'm here to tell you that that's not leadership. It's opting out of the consequence while tantruming that you get to retain the control. And that's where I think the theology really begins to break down.
I think it's important that we state that the order of God in Christianity is God over Christ, Christ and man, man over woman. And this is vaguely, in Islam, there is something similar. In another religion,
Well, it says, let us make man.
it
It's
is,
talking about the angels
it is
of God.
important that we stick to this. Once we deviate from this,
Let's just
that is-
focus.
In the Christianity that I was raised in, leadership was supposed to be modeled after Jesus, which meant sacrifice, service, laying down your life, the washing of feet. But the version of leadership that I keep hearing requested, and that I actually have a lifetime of experience seeing modeled, well, it doesn't look like that. It actually tends to look like just wanting the final say. Just say what you want. You want the final say, but not tracking any of the details that it takes to make that decision informed. It looks like being in charge until a toddler is upset, and then suddenly it's my job to come in and smooth it over. But you're the leader. Got it. It looks like authority at the top and emotional labor at the bottom. That's not biblical servant leadership. That's patriarchy with like a dingy halo. Here's why this matters to me personally. I was raised in a world where men's leadership was treated as natural, neutral, and God ordained. And I believed it for years. I believed it. I married a man who at the time would have been on the traditional side of the stage in the Jubilee room. And I've actually got to watch him over the years deconstruct every single one of these beliefs piece by piece. It is a beautiful thing to get to watch a man unlearn misogyny, to watch him grow a vocabulary for softness, and to watch him co-lead our household, not because I demanded it, but because he chose to see the invisible labor and he's decided to share it. Marriage can truly feel like a partnership. So yeah, I can step in and help you with the toddler because we're equals. And I have strengths you clearly don't. My kids just burst into a fight right outside the door just a couple seconds ago. I did not have to get up and run out there and break it up and navigate it. I hear my husband instantly come in, tell the boys to go to the room, and he follows them in, and now they're in there talking it through. It's possible, and it's not that hard. And just to be clear, this was very much his work to do. I did not drag him through deconstruction. I don't think women should ever be responsible for a man's spiritual or emotional awakening. He chose it, he did the work. I just got a front row seat to it. But I for sure don't recommend marrying a traditional man. So I know that change is possible. I know that men don't have to stay.
Women they're not naturally leaders, and that's completely fine. They're more submissive and we're more dominant. We just make better choices.
I mean, that's like also scientifically proven what you just said.
I know that men don't have to stay like that. I know that partnership can be real. But here's what I also know. The version of leadership being sold in these conversations isn't partnership. It's a power imbalance that's been rebranded as like preference. Like, this is just our preference. This is how we choose to live. And it's like, no, it's just a power imbalance. It's just control. Because preference becomes hierarchy the moment only one side actually has to ever pay any cost. So when men say they want to lead, I believe them. I just want to know what they think that actually means, because leadership isn't a title. It's the person who carries the weight of things when things go sideways. And if the weight still lands on women, then the title isn't leadership, it's just privilege. And as a mother of sons, I also have to just take a quick moment to acknowledge the tragedy that this framework doesn't just hurt women, it also harms men. Because when men are raised on these rigid gender scripts, they lose access to partnership. They lose access to emotional intimacy and shared labor and the freedom to not have to perform dominance 24/7 just to prove that they're men. So basically all of the characteristics that makes a traditional man. Real leadership is collaborative, it's accountable, and it doesn't require that someone else stay small just so that you can feel big. If you like conversations that don't just argue about culture, but that actually decode it, then that's what we do here. We use the internet's drama and pop culture to unpack the power dynamics that are at play underneath it. So if that is your thing, I would love for you to subscribe and keep overthinking with me. Thank you for overthinking trad wife math with me today. Why don't you make like a trophy wife and go do something luxurious for yourself? Like, why don't you go have a nap? You deserve it.